limit them a little bit.
There you
All
go.
right.
Totally. Hey, we are recording now. Rock and roll, Nick.
All right, sounds good. So we have Dr. Jeff Lindell, Director of Student Services at DC Everest today, talking about a program that you guys are using. Now, I just heard about this program called Gaggle that you're using through the school system, which is basically a safety monitoring system, right?
Correct. So Gaggle basically monitors the email of our students and their use of some other platforms like Microsoft Teams, just to basically keep an eye on whether or not there's unsafe behavior going on. And so we don't have anyone sitting around reading all these messages, but we work with a company who basically flags particular language. And if they flag that particular language, they'll dive into the email a little bit more. And they'll go from anywhere to sending an email or a notice to the student just to say, hey, this is inappropriate. Please, watch how you're using the technology, to sending an email to our building level administrative teams, and we have a couple here at our admin building that also get those emails, all the way to if it rises to a level of significant concern around a child and their health and well-being, or of anyone that might be threatened or anything along those lines, they'll call us and say, hey, just want you to know this came through. We'll send you the email, but we wanted to make sure somebody was on it right away.
So when you're using this system, have you been alerted to some issues that have been going on, and what is your reaction when that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. We get notifications all the time. And it's kind of like how you might handle a situation in a school setting. You get the notification, the significance of it kind of warrants or directs the level of response that you might do. We have some situations where, I think I tell our administrators too that this might be a scenario where you see a kid walking in the hallway and you just might say, hey, Johnny, I just want you to know I saw that. And I know that's not the way we use technology. Just keep an eye on how you're handling our technology, right? So we don't have to make a big deal out of every situation, because it's about building relationships with kids and navigating those situations. And really, we're trying to teach kids that once they hit 18, they're going to walk out into a world where they need to handle those behaviors and emotions appropriately on their own. So our level of response is dependent upon that, all the way to the point of, and I've used this product in another district that I was in as well, where we've saved kids' lives ultimately, and that's basically, we get a notification where a kid wants to harm themselves, and we've been able to intervene in a way that prevents that self-harm and get kids help and those types of things. So we deal with things all over the spectrum. We can deal with inappropriate communications. We can deal with threatening behavior towards other people or other students. So we address all of those based on the merits of the case, like we would if a kid came into our office and said, hey, Johnny's doing this out in the hallway.
Gotcha. Jeff, I wanted to ask about, is this kind of the norm throughout the United States? Is it something that we're just doing here in Wisconsin? You mentioned a couple of different school setups, but is this the norm all over the place where we're using this technology?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, we've been using this technology for a few years. It isn't a direct response to COVID protocols, but obviously those COVID scenarios, and over the last year, we've increased the level of reliance on technology. And I think which we've been doing over the course of years, it's just been taken to another level at this point. But when you continually move towards this use of technology with kids, I think what comes with it is a responsibility on just navigating how kids are using that when they aren't using it specifically for academic purposes. And so it's been a common trend across the country. A company that we use is not a local company, so they have business all over the country. And but to me, it's a level of responsibility as we're starting to give technology to students, which is a necessity, right? That's the direction that the world's going. So we have this responsibility to teach kids not only how to use technology, but how to use it appropriately. And we know that kids, we know that the brain doesn't finish developing until you're 25. And so we can all think back to our college days and say, hey, yeah, that's true. But we can also think back to what our kids are experiencing as well, and seeing them navigate different aspects of life, and know that there are times when they need somebody watching over them, just to make sure that they stay safe.
Well, and this has to be a huge comfort to parents because, you know, when we were growing up, there wasn't really an opportunity for things like cyberbullying that we needed to be concerned about. So this is a whole new world for parents who have kids in the school district right now that are maybe experiencing that. Have we seen a rise in cyberbullying over the last few years that has been caught by this system?
Yeah, I don't know that we've seen a rise in cyberbullying necessarily, but we certainly catch things that really push us to tend to some situations with students. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we are seeing the specific cyberbullying. We might see kids that are talking to their friends via a chat system that says, hey, this is happening to me, and they're telling their friend about it. And it really cues us in as a district to say, there might be something going on here. Let's bring a couple kids in and find out what's going on and try to address it before it gets bigger than it needs to be. So absolutely it cues us in on issues that are happening in the moment. But sometimes it's just a matter of kids talking to their friends and expressing, hey, this isn't going well in my life right now, and wanting to get it off their chest as a student. And it really cues us in as adults to say we need to tend to something. And kids don't always come to us, right? And so if we have these moments in time where we can address the situation before it grows in significance, that's a win for us. It's a win for parents. It's a win for kids.
So at what point are parents brought into the fold when you're alerted to some sort of a situation?
Yeah, I think that goes back to what's the significance of the issue, right? And when you're growing up and you're going through a process, we're getting kids to the point where they turn 18 and they're walking out into the real world, and we're really trying to teach kids, how do you handle situations on your own sometimes? And so if it's a low-level situation that we can, like I said before, is talk to a kid in the hallway and say, hey, I saw this is going on. What can you do differently? How can we support you as a student so that you can make different decisions with your technology? All the way up to, there are significant situations, and the more significant it is, the more likely we're going to make a call right off the bat and say to parents, hey, this is what's going on. This is kind of what we've gotten. We've explained Gaggle at times to parents in those situations, and engage the support of parents and navigating the issue as well. And ultimately, I think we're all winners again when we can attack some of these things as a team. Because when you talk about cyberbullying or just bullying or misbehavior in general, we're not talking about school issues. Ultimately, we're talking about community issues. Mm-hmm. We're coming through a time politically, I think, where we aren't necessarily seeing eye to eye with each other, and we're not always handling ourselves very well as adults in those moments in time either. And so our kids are watching that, and they're seeing us as adults. And so we're just we're part of society as a school district. And so the behaviors that we see out in the community manifest themselves differently in behaviors in the school setting. But it is a community issue. And so the more we can attack it as a community issue and engage all of the partners and take a team approach to addressing behaviors, we win.
It sounds like, Gaggle is kind of like a hub. I mean, you needed a system of some sort. And so from a teacher standpoint, administrator, and Nick, from a parent standpoint, that this is definitely a good way to go. It's got to be one of those things that we're never going to see go away. What you need to do as far as trying to stay on top of this issue and this problem, it will always be there, but finding ways to kind of keep an eye on it is a fantastic thing that you have a system.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we know over the course of time, and it's looked differently 50 years ago than it looks today. But if you talk to parents 50 years ago, they're going to talk about poor decisions that their kids are making, right? And so I think that's the nature of the beast, is we're trying to teach kids how to navigate life in an appropriate fashion, and whatever it looks like on a decade basis, it's going to look. But the fact of the matter is kids are going to make mistakes, and we have to be standing ready to help support them through that. And the more we can help identify those mistakes on the front end before they grow into some level of significance of concern, the better. The better for us, the better for parents, the better for kids. And so we think it's a win. I think the important piece for us is, as students or kids that are listening to your station, or parents that are listening, if your kid doesn't send, or your child doesn't send anything inappropriate, we don't ever see it, really, right? We don't have staff or capacity to sit around watching every email that or chat that flows through our systems. It's targeting in those scenarios that flag for the type of language that's in the communication. Good communication, good decisions yield positive natural consequences. Poor choices, poor communications, those are ones that yield maybe negative consequences, or certainly us as adults engaging in the situation.
That sounds like something you should write down. You know that, Nick? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Good rules to live by.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes. Well, Dr. Jeff Lindell, thank you so much for sharing this information with us and telling us how you're helping the kids in our community and the parents and families just feel a little bit safer with everything going on in the world right now. It's really comforting to know that you're working hard and choosing the right programs to help us.
Yeah, thank you. And equally important, thank you to your station as well, because I know you do a ton of work around this topic, and you do a ton of just work encouraging kids to do the right thing and to treat each other with respect. So I appreciate the work that you guys do as well.
Our pleasure.
Thank you. Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thanks. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Woo! Guys, we have material.